Hello everybody, welcome back to another Dragon Ball Legends video, and today we're going to do something a little different. I was wondering, I wonder if I should play as some older units, and then I looked back at them, and then I was like, oh man, their kits are so antiquated. I can't wait for such and such to get a Zenkai, and then I realized these characters are not Goku and Vegeta. So, instead of going back to the well and seeing a weak unit do 0 damage in modern PvP, I thought to myself, you know what? Why not do a little bit of a rating with some of the older units and see how they were when they were back in their prime, and see obviously they're going to be power creep, but kind of rate them to see just how good they were at the time. Now, since we're at the time of this recording, this is the 7th anniversary of Legends. This is going to pretty much act as like somewhat of a nostalgic look back at some of these units that I used to use vigorously back then when I was a brand new player. It was I think pre-day 1 day when it was Red Super Saiyan Goku. Best character in the game was Green Piccolo because he could survive a rush potentially with the right stars and setup. And there wasn't exactly a foundation for the game, what team was the best. It was just throw whatever. And then slowly when they started introducing, I believe, Yellow Android 18, when they had the girls tag, it kind of solidified for me. That was a team I was going to have to run because, of course, when Videl comes out, she's definitely going to have to be on the girls team, right? It is essentially the equivalent for Dokkan's Peppy Gals, though Peppy Gals on Dokkan was a little bit more discriminatory because, one, you had to be at least Videl's age or higher, and then you couldn't be somebody like Vados, because apparently Vados is too old to be considered a Peppy Gals. So, but somebody like what was it, that weird green demon woman from OG Dragon Ball, the one with the scythe? I forget. Mamba? Yeah, Mamba. But technically, Mamba counts as Peppy Gals. I never understood what was the distinction for why Vados was too old, and even Cronoa was too old, I guess, to be a Peppy Gals character under that umbrella. But whatever. Here in Legends, everybody that is under the girls tag is treated the same. So there's that. So with that proper introduction out of the way, this is how we're going to do things. I'm going to look at all the units from the oldest one that I've received in the game. So I have everything listed in order received. And I figured it's pretty accurate because whenever a new waifu unit comes out, I will immediately drop everything and go summon or go get the free-to-play character whenever that happens, just to see if I can, what I could use with the team composition, etc., etc., etc. There we go. Now, if the character has a Zenkai, I'm going to treat that Zenkai as a separate unit because they were, at the time, either impactful or not very impactful. I'm looking at you. I know exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm going to rate it from 1, 2, and 3. 1 being worthless. 2 being it was okay. And it probably had no change. And 3 was very good. And you guys can probably tell based on my earlier videos what I value as really, really good, what is okay, and what is absolute trash. So I didn't want to bog down with like a rating of 10 because I think it gets too muddy. And I'll explain my reasoning as we go through here. So hopefully you guys enjoy, and this is going to be quite the memory lane. Thankfully, this is the entirety of the girls tag. Yeah, this is just all we've had throughout 7 years. Let that sink in. If you guys can notice, unless I'm missing somebody, completely all 14 stars here. That is how dedicated and miserable I've been when it comes to getting these units to the best they can possibly perform in the PvP setting. So, without further ado, let's get started. We got Blue Pan over here. Now, Blue Pan, she was a year 1 unit. Now, I did say Yellow Android 18, but she also went under the umbrella of the tag. At the time, it was Female Warriors. That's what they originally called them. But I think after they had released Bulma, and I'm pretty sure they wanted to release more Bulma, they realized, well, she wasn't really a fighter. So putting her under the Female Warriors tag was just somewhat of a lie. So they changed all the Female Warriors tag name to Girls, which sounds less threatening, but it excuse me, but it is actually factual. So gotta remember that for a lot of these older units. I think that was a change they made 2 or 3 years ago. Time flies by. But anyway, Pan in herself, when she released, she was pretty garbo. I would say that she didn't really have too much of an impact onto stuff here. I think she had, what, Dragon Ball? Was I can't really look back at her original kit because this one's already Zenkai'd. But from what I do remember, she didn't really have too much of an impact. She had that stop time green card, which gave her some effects. I think this was before the time when every green card would give you key and then possibly a card. Excuse me. But with Pan, she was a year 1 unit for a reason. You had her because that was the only other option you had. She probably could be paired up with Goku. She was the blue option to take out, I guess the Super Saiyan Goku, the red one, the year 1 that came out. She was kind of a whatever unit. And for that, I'd say mainly because she wasn't doing any disservice, I give her like a rank 2 when she first released. And because everybody was kind of okay, decent. I don't remember Red Super Saiyan Goku being like, oh my goodness, you had to summon for him or buy the pack at the time when I think he was in the shop. But Pan, she was, I guess you could just say it's decent. For that one, when she got her Zenkai, I personally running her on the girls team because I think her Zenkai was what, Blue Sun, right? Yeah, Blue Sun family. Much of her kit here for the Zenkai. Let's see what I think. This one gives key, right? Yeah, key by 30. It restores ally character health by 10%, 30% to strike damage for 30 timer counts. Ally sub count down by 2. Let's see, 40% damage inflicted, yada yada. 30% damage inflicted. Okay, and then following effects occur, enemy vanishing step. Draw a strike card next. 30% to strike damage inflicted. Damage received, yada yada. Nothing really super duper good. She's doing a lot of healing. Oh, I guess she has death buffs right here. We got the restores ally health by 20% and then 50% to damage inflicted permanently, and it reduces the enemy Dragon Ball by 2. She was decent. I wouldn't say that when she got her Zenkai, like, oh my goodness, she was the standard for the team. In fact, I don't think you ever seen me use her past, I think maybe I did a showcase on this one. This is such a long time ago when she got her Zenkai, before I started taking the YouTube Legends game seriously. But I would say, for lack of a better score, I would say she's probably like a 2. She was decent, okay, but she wasn't exactly meta defining for the girls tag team. So her Zenkai was kind of a whatever, but it wasn't just a terrible addition. So that's going to be for Pan. I'm going to try to go ahead and speed along through here. I'm not even going to bother with hero units. I'm just going to look at the sparkings. So we're going to ignore this one because that's just Zenkai supporter. Okay, this was the first summonable one, I believe, for after Blue Pan. This one had her own banner, I think. Yellow 18. Now we're going to talk a little bit about her original inclusion when she got in there. She was at the very most just a unit that you need to fill out the girls team when she came out. She was decent damage. She had an ult, which, having an ult at that time of the game was a big deal because it's like, oh man, that means that character had extra effort. This character was a lot more perceived as valuable, and they had a very strong damaging move at their disposal. Plus, time stop. At the time, it was a lot easier to get people into that time stop and confirm with it. There was hardly any card destruction in the game, probably not even at all during that time. So you could have that set up, and that ult would probably do a lot of damage despite anybody's cover cut or whatever. She was in a really good spot, but she wasn't an oppressive force, and she wasn't like, oh, I need this unit. The only reason why you needed the unit technically was because the girls tag was just barely starting out with every other tag, so she kind of needed to just be that fill-in body. With that being said, I would say the only thing that I can remember from her initial inclusion was that she was decent, and that's what gives her a 2 out of 3 for this unit. That is a completely different story when she got her Zenkai. Now, for those who don't know, back when Zenkais were brand new, Zenkais kind of were overinflated with the amount of power they were given. And what I mean by that is that Zenkais were a lot harder to obtain. They were not freely given out, and the process of getting them Zenkai'd required a considerable amount of time investment, resources, and I think there was chrono crystals involved because you had to summon I think, a lucrative amount of Chrono Crystals just to get them to Zenkai 7. There was a period of time where people were like, oh, you know what, just get Zenkai 6 because that's really what it matters. The Zenkai 7 is just kind of like frosting that isn't unnecessary. Zenkais during the era when 18 got her Zenkai were so busted that they made new units that came out following these Zenkais kind of invalid because they were that good. And so 18, when she got hers, she was so darn oppressive in the game. Bear in mind, I think there was only maybe one or two. I think the only one that really comes to mind was the Super Saiyan Blue Goku, the red one. That when they started introducing cover change, or cover change mechanics that allowed you to knock people back and possibly follow up with a blue card. That was like the only thing that you really had against this 18. If you did not have anybody as rare as like that Goku, you were going to get comboed by her for a million years to death. Now you're probably wondering, like, what are you talking about, Mark? Well, this is going off memory because I played with this unit so much back when she was relevant. 18 had the ability that when she started a combo, right, or just in general, anytime she was like, if you were, let's say you started a combo, right, and your enemy swapped into another character, she would get card draw speed. Her cards would be cheaper. And I believe she got a little bit more key. I'm not going to look at it, but I'm going to go through the nostalgia goggles here on this one because it's the purpose of this video. That, in tandem with the fact that I think this was during the time that cover changing was only one. You could only cover change once. You were not able to cover change freely like we do today, where if the sub count was down enough, you could keep swapping theoretically, as long as your sub counts were not there. 18 could essentially just start a combo. Someone comes in to take the damage, and she could actually just kill that person that covered in with just sheer amount of of card draw speed and damage, and also the ability to generate. I think her green card also made the cards cheaper too. Yeah, I think the green also made things cheaper as well. Her ability to combo almost for like forever made her incredibly busted as a Zenkai unit. She was so good for the longest time that I think it took either a unit to kind of like shut her down, or the fact that they just introduced more units that could just stop combos in their tracks, like card destruction, or I believe was more of like the Super Saiyan Blue that just knocks you back if you continue your combo with a strike card. Obviously, that's when people start getting a little crafty by drop comboing, very thin drops in the combo to make it seem like the combo could actually chain together. Stuff like that had to be implemented because with this 18 being as good as she was, you really had no other choice but to say, okay, put the phone down. I'm gonna lose a character now. Hopefully, I can make a comeback. And she was relatively tanky too when she came out with full Zenkai 7 stats and everything. This 18 was such a really well-defined unit that it makes me sad we're never going to see anything like this for the girls tag ever again. As oppressive as that was, maybe Kefla when LF Kefla comes out in the game, but this 18 definitely, hands down, unanimously, is a 3 because she was extremely powerful, extremely potent, and she made the girls team very fearsome back in the day. If she chose to have run, I know she's Yellow Android as Zenkai buffer, and most likely people played as that. But when you saw that on a girls' team, it was like, well, I'm gonna get clipped, aren't I? So she was very, very good. I'm really sad that we're not gonna see that again, but it was a great moment in time when this character got Zenkai'd. All right, let's go ahead and move on. Grn Mai. Okay, so this is the character again that you kind of wanted to fill in for your team. Because the team was still building up. It was still relatively new. Of course, I think that this was during the era when Future was just getting so much support as a team. Like, I think that the biggest meme at the time was that Welcome to Future Ball Z, because they were just non-stop. Vegito Blue, was it a Goku Black, Zamasu, Sword of Hope Trunks, all that other stuff they were adding there. And then there was Mai, which Mai had the Z ability to not only do Future, but the girls tag with extra health. I'm still kind of iffy on if extra health alone is a good Zenkai, a good Z ability the longer the game progresses, because she has, if I were to look over here, 25% to girls max base health during battle, And now, maybe it is true. Maybe I shouldn't even have this unit as a bench unit option anymore for the 25% extra health. But it's like, it's extra health, right? Shouldn't it be good? Should it not be good? That's something I'm still trying to figure out. Maybe someone could tell me if the health, sacrificing power, but essentially you're not getting any power from this one, for health, is actually a good strat, or I should just completely abandon this unit for wait for Zenkai for her. That's a question that you guys can pretty much answer down below. But for this version of Mai here, the only good thing that I remember having with this unit was her flashbang ability, the green card, which allowed you to essentially do a solar flare with against your opponent. It was decent, I guess. Her blue card wasn't exactly hitting extremely hard, but it was a blind option for the girls tag, since I don't think any girls character in Dragon Ball at all does solar flare. So it was kind of like their version of it. Other than that, that was kind of the only utility that this character had. And even then, the flashbang ability just, I mean, it was just a card. You only had, what, 2 seconds to really take advantage of that. And we weren't in the meta like, you know, Kaioken Goku right now, where you're just constantly blinding people with greens. So you just load up on blue cards. So, yeah, she was kind of like, okay, fill in the team, green option, there you go. And so with that, I'm going to say that based on my memory with her, she was just kind of a 2. She was a okay unit. She wasn't the worst option to have. She had that blind mechanic. It would have saved you at some points, but it wasn't like the de facto, oh man, I need to run this character or else I'm going to lose kind of card here. So with that being said, yeah, I give her a 2 on that one. All right, moving on. Oh, I got a lot of things to say about this one. So when Kale first originally dropped, which funny enough, I was expecting base Kale to come in, but they just jumped straight into Berserk mode. This Kale was decent. She was okay. I think her main mechanic was come in, take some hits, and shut down the combo with her increased defense. Now, if you know anything about Dragon Ball Legends, or you've been playing for a while, you realize defense units, at least in the past, have historically been the worst ones to get power crept, or they're the ones that get power crept the worst out of every single type in the game. Because when inevitably stronger units come out and they hit harder and they have more defense, the defense units, which are priding themselves on just taking hits, can't take hits anymore. And then they just get tossed in the trash bin, waiting for the Zenkai to show up. This Kale card was a red option. It was essentially just your red option to run our girls tag. I believe she was on the girls tag here. Let me take a look. Yeah, she was on girls tag. And if I look back over here, we have blue, yellow, green, red. Yeah, so you had your red option here. She was decent. I don't remember anything too much regarding this unit as viable or super good. Bear in mind, when the game was starting and they had all this stuff, I was still trying to get myself into how the meta was going to be played. I was still learning. I didn't even know how to charge step back then. I'm pretty sure that was still a thing from like year 1, but I don't really have too much memory of her pre-Zenkai form. And with that, I would say I'm just going to stick with a solid 2. She was filled in for the red unit slot in the team. She was okay. She was doing what everybody was doing when the game was new and just filling in the team, and that was it. However, when we talk about her Zenkai, I remember running her Zenkai when it came out, and I was excited because I was like, okay, Kale, I like Kale's character. I don't necessarily like the Berserk transformation, and I think her Super Saiyan 2 looks really ugly, but I said, you know what, it's Kale. We'll go ahead and see how she does. Zenkais were, I think at the time, they were on the, they were kind of getting a little, more manageable because they made him a lot more accessible to people at the time. And boy, oh boy, they really did not give a damn about this character Zenkai, because when in practicality she's there to shut down combos, she is getting hurt way more than a defense unit should on release. Her damage, unless it was some blast cards, was pitiful. She almost felt like a garbage unit, and you know what? I'm going to say that right now. She is a garbage unit. She was awful on release. I don't know anybody that actually used her past her initial spotlight, because she was just completely worthless. She added nothing to the team. By that point, we had better red options who were either summonable or they were older. So this unit, she added nothing. I mean, I think there's some card destruction on her cover change, but like, people can get cards so easily, at least during that era, that time, it didn't really matter. She was getting hurt way more than she was inflicting damage on them, and she felt more like a she felt more like a crutch that you had. Like, you know, you're just saying, oh man, I could beat you with this character that does absolutely nothing to add to value to my team. And for that, I give her a 1. She's probably the first Zenkai I could think of that really let me down and was awful, and just like, why did you even try? You just sucked away people's chrono crystals and got away with it. So yeah, the Berserk Kale and her Zenkai was just such a disappointment. Added no value, and for that, it was a 1 out of the 3 scale. All right, moving on. Caulifla. So the purple Caulifla, she was good. She was a purple option that was filling in the team. I don't want to repeat too much of what I was saying with the other ones, but she was a strike attack unit character. Melee type. No, I'm looking at. She was a strike attack character. She was fulfilling the role of just constantly being oppressive with the strikes on her initial unveil. She was decent. Okay, everybody was just kind of vanilla at the time. So I would say, for the sake of not subjecting you guys to even more, I'm just going to give her a 2. She was there. She did her job fine. When we talk about the Zenkai, I would almost argue, was probably nearly as bad as Kale's, with just one difference. This one actually did damage. The biggest problem for her at the time when she Zenkai'd was that her options. No, I actually want to look over here. Got Strike, Blast, Crush Cannon. Yeah, got the 25%, right? Yeah, changes own. Yeah, she changes the strikes, which also made it really predictable what she had in her hand, which was never a good thing when you started getting the cover change defenders. Let's see, strike card. Yeah, You want to know what's interesting about this thing here? Yeah, following switches to battlefield. Applies every time. Yeah. The interesting about this thing is that even though she got Zenkai'd, she had nothing to defend herself from cover change. So she just kind of showed up. You had to hope that your enemy team was just maxed out in sub count, so she could do her good damage, not great damage, but good damage, and then go to somebody who actually had some good hacks to, keep the game in your favor. She was just a bare basic strike character when she first came out, and then she was a bare basic strike character when she got her Zenkai. Nothing really super spectacular. I would say probably on the low end of a 2. Lower than the other characters that I've spoken about. And she only doesn't be a 1 because at least she did her role fine. The role that Kale did was not even representative of what she could have been. Her defense just sucked. And at least Caulifla had damage. The problem with Caulifla is that after her Zenkai went through, she just got forgotten. Purple TOP? I think it was purple TOP or Saiyan, right? No, purple Rival Universe. Even less of attack that you can have flexibility with. So, or actually, no, my bad. Rival Universe is a pretty substantial one. My bad. Because that's everything from TOP as well, because they're technically Rival Universe. So, there's that. Caulifla gets a just barely 2 out of 3 on that one. Alright, next up we have Bulma here. This unit, I will say, spoiler warning here, she gets a 3, primarily because of her green card, which has a lot of good value. And she essentially had, on release, with her green, was that she was able to yeet out and ignore sub count. So if you're in a situation even at that time of the game where your sub counts were ridiculously high for whatever reason, and she had a green in her hand, and the enemy was like, I'm gonna rise and rush this character, she just vanished. You go into your green, you get a Dragon Ball, and I believe that Dragon Ball thing is unlimited. Yeah, it is unlimited. And I'm looking at the Zenkai one, but yeah, I know that for sure. That she gets a Dragon Ball guaranteed every single time she uses her green. And it is such a valuable tool. It is so valuable, in fact, that I did actually run this character quite frequently and often, even after there were better blue cards in the game. She was decent at her blast damage. Not really good so much with the strike from what I can remember, and then she had a long distance blue card, which you could catch people from a distance who love dancing a whole bunch. She was good. I want to say very, very solid. And that green card, which allowed you to escape, which again was one of the very first hacky abilities for the girls tag, which they definitely don't get very much of those whenever a new unit comes out, though it seems that might be changing fairly soon, but who knows. And by the way, if you guys are wondering what I mean by hacky, anytime I think of a character that has a mechanic that allows him to bend the rules or add a new mechanic to the game that essentially is like, well, that character can no longer do this thing against this character. I consider it hacky, just because it's like, oh, you're hacking the game to make your gameplay experience easier or more fun, or to troll the enemy. That's just my my umbrella for what I mean by hacky. But yeah, the fact that you're able to just ignore sub count, switch anyway, and then you get unlimited Dragon Balls on that. Of course, nowadays, if you're able to get like a character that generates a whole bunch of greens, and you just go into Bulma over and over again, you get a whole bunch of Dragon Balls faster. You could probably maybe get like 3 rushes consistently, instead of having it like every once in a while a match that goes on for a very long time. I don't think you even get 3 rushes in an actually competent 1v1 situation, but that's neither here nor there. Bulma, she was amazing back in the day, and I will give that one a 2. Her I'm gonna retroactively make that a 2. Her Zenkai was actually really darn good. She was tanky. They made her a support. They made the support unit a tanky defense unit, and she was able to kind of when they started getting Zenkai and the Dragon Ball Waifu characters, they did a really good job of making that tag stand out as much as it could by just over-tuning how good these characters were, because I guess the Dragon Ball team in itself was so neglected that they wanted to give people a reason to play that team again. And of course, because she's on girls, I used her on the girls tag, and well, she even had the Z ability for that, and she was actually really good. And I would say a 3 out of 3 for that one, because she just had a lot of good viability. She could stop combos. She had a really powerful blast attack and a very powerful blue card, like completely big change from her original. And the fact that if you dipped under, I think 30 ki, she just gives you a blue card in hand. Like, you could just and then you get, I think, 50 ki, so you could use it. Imagine having that with another character where you just go into her, use up all that ki, swap to a different character, and then use the blue card, like, for free. You would have blue cards for days, and it was such a good thing. The only problem, of course, that came later is that her defense got power crept, and so she wasn't able to keep the defense going. But on release, she was super duper tanky, super duper powerful with blast attacks, and that's what made her very viable for the team. And yeah, that's essentially Zenkai Bulma in a nutshell. All right, next up, oh man, this is a character I love, and I hated and then loved over time. If you guys know my thoughts on the Chi-Chi the character, at least this version of Chi-Chi, I was happy that this character got some kind of representation. She is such a fun character to beat people up with. But yeah, when she first came out, she was the Son Gohan, or sorry, the Son Goku's family killer. She had so much busted damage against them that it almost made it seem like if you saw this Chi-Chi in PvP and you were running a Sun Fam, you might as well just leave the game at that point, because she touched you once. You were going to lose a single unit within that combo. She was that darn good. And I will say, based on that one, she gets a 3 out of 3 when her initial appearance came in. She was very viable. The only counterplay that you really had is a Legion of Evil. And I think anybody else that wasn't, Goku or Gohan. But of course, Goku and Gohan is such a common thing to see in PvP, because, MCs and everything. But they gave her some trouble, but the fact that her ult gave her type neutral, and you could still kill people that way, kill a purple unit, that alone just made her still a viable chance to end an enemy that may have given her problems otherwise. Plus the team synergy, at that point we had already had the entire color wheel of waifus, and she did her role really darn well. Like, you saw Goku, throw in Chi-Chi, she would absolutely destroy him. And that is what made her extremely valuable. However, her Zenkai, as strong as it was, the thing that she really lacked was cover null. The cover change mechanic by that point in time was already in full swing. There was no excuses to have Chi-Chi just kind of be strong, but have no way to like keep a combo going with cover null. If they would have allowed her to come in and let me I'm gonna quickly see here, because unless I'm forgetting about this, there's no cover null here. Let's see, your store is 50 applies. Okay.
80% damage, okay. Applies effects, battle start, damage inflicted, key recovered, okay. Okay. Gradually restores HP, okay. Every time, no, she just performs vanish step while characters on battlefield, randomly draws one card. Yeah, I don't see anything. I'm just like speed reading through here to see if I see a buzzword that I remember, but no, there is absolutely no cover null in here for her. And even if you want to say it might be tied to her main ability, yeah, nullifies unfavorable element. That's the same as before. Yeah, it wouldn't have mattered because that's like a one-time, not a consistent thing to keep throwing her in there for cover null, do her combo, and then that's it. Her problem was that she was mostly strike based. Everybody knew that. So if she used a strike card, she would get another strike card in her hand, like a little baby, I want to say like Android 18, when she just comes in and just gets like another card for free or whatever. The problem with that is that everybody kind of saw the strike cards coming in. So majority of characters that are mostly meta relevant have a cover change mechanic against strike cards. So Chi-Chi's kind of hosed per se, because she doesn't really have anything to defend herself, and then of course you're dealing with somebody that has universal cover change. You're just gonna have to accept her fate and then trigger it off anyway. So she didn't really have much of a defensive tool to keep her combos going. Like, she didn't have cover null at all, and she didn't have anything that would, aid somebody else with their combo. It was just sort of kind of there. So yeah, so that was pretty much it. Other than that, I would say I'd give her probably a 1 out of 3, mainly because it's she kind of had absolutely no use. Bulma was really good. Chi-Chi just kind of felt like not necessarily interested. Chi-Chi just kind of had no place to be put in there when you have a game full of cover change people. So we're gonna go ahead and move on to the next one here. Alright, oh, here we go. So, Yellow Videl. I'm going to be extremely unbiased for this one, and it's going to hurt me because I would love to put all Videls on 3 out of 3, but this one definitely deserves to be a little scrutinized. On release, I remember spending a good chunk of paycheck to get this one because this was the very first Videl in the game. She, I believe, covered the entire waifu wheel, which was yellow. No, wait. 18 was already doing that. So she was trying to replace 18. Before the Zenkai 18, you have now Videl here to kind of replace that as the yellow option. From memory, and bear in mind, she has no Zenkai. So the only thing that really made her valuable was that her main ability essentially gave her a full health restore. Kind of, sort of. But it was a lot of health that you were able to get back in the day. And she got hit. Okay, we're down underneath 50% health. Pop in the main ability, and then boom, she is back to normal, per se. And that was her only defining trait. She had decent strikes. She had a really bad blast because, true to the character. But she was just kind of there to take hits, heal, and keep your team alive, because I think at that time healing was becoming very busted. And like, I'm looking at Majin Buu, Fat Buu, the green Fat Buu, the master of timing you out because of his constant health restore. Videl, she was just a tank unit that could heal one time per battle. And when I look back on it, her viability beyond that was just that. Nothing else. She wasn't doing anything strong or super duper impressive. Like, somebody that, well, let's say 18 did. She was doing a little bit better. But she was just a healer. And I'm going to have to put her debatably here as like a 1 out of 3. Her viability at that point. Once she got power crept, he's like, once another unit came out, there was no reason to run this unit anymore. Because even though you're probably getting hit like under 50% or whatever, she's probably close to dying. And the healing would get you back up to 50%. It was just not interesting at all. And you did not want to you didn't want to have the hassle. So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to say 1 out of 3 stars for that one, because she kind of fell off pretty quick, like once there was a better substitute. All right, let's. Oh wow! And then after that, it was okay. I remember this banner. This was her and I believe Ribrianne were on the same banner. Great Saiyan Man 2. This is the unfortunate circumstance of they tied a really good mechanic from her green card into her to her main identity for this for a kid here. Let me see. I think if I remember correctly, yeah, 50% to strike damage, increases card art draw speed by 1 level for 10 timer counts. Never did I feel that when I was playing with this character on release. It was actually quite sad. Purple and then girls, I think because there was a purple Gohan at the time. They didn't want to specifically... Yeah, she was anti-lineage of evil. So anytime you saw Frieza force, like Frieza or Cooler or anything like that, Videl had extra damage against it. And then, of course, Purple. They were really trying to push, I think, Gohan and her to be on the same... I think the free-to-play Gohan, the Great Saiyaman. That's what they were kind of trying to insinuate. And nullify downgrades, yeah. I'm going to say that this Videl also was probably a 1 out of 3. Just in terms, like, she was strong, but that was it. There was nothing else that really came to, like, make her stand out from everybody else. The green, although giving you a card draw speed up, didn't mean squat if you had no key to run them. Nowadays, you have card draw speed up, and then you got key to kind of... spend on those cards. With Videl, once she had used up her deck, she was swapping out to somebody else. And as cool as it was to play as a character, because it was the first, and I think at this point only Great Saiyaman 2 card in the game, once the novelty wore off, just like, oh yeah, she's not really that good. Her tank, she really couldn't tank, and her damage was getting power crept way faster than, well, I won't say any other character, but she got power crept pretty fast in her relevancy. Tank down. Just like the yellow Videl, this one definitely deserves a second looking if they decide to Zenkai her during like a movie celebration. But no, only time will tell. So that's a 1 out of 3 for her. All right, Ribrianne. This one was definitely a unit that you played because you wanted to piss off Dragon Ball fans that hated her. Ribrianne was essentially the best character in the game for like, I think the week that she released. And it all came down to everyone's favorite Majin Ku mechanic, and it was paralysis on her blue card. I think it was on her alt. Let me see. No, 50% paralysis on hit, and in her alt over here, 70% chance to add paralysis. I was just off by a little bit on it. Yeah, Ribrianne, she was the queen of paralysis. You got somebody that could generate some blue cards with her. In my case, I didn't have that option, but some people did. But when you had that blue card hit and they were doing, jittering like an idiot, bear in mind you had less defensive options back then. You were gonna give your opponent a really bad time. And Ribrianne was the queen of that. She had some really good damage across the board. Blast, strike. Her blue card was the oppressive thing that made her really a tyrant on the battlefield. And I will say, for that, she gets a 3 out of 3. Just because she was so well rounded as like the anchor unit, that as soon as you lost this character to Rush, you kind of realize, okay, your game's probably over. So not much more I could say. She was the blue card character for the team until, of course, she got power crept later. Same thing you'll notice with a lot of these older units. And that's pretty much it. Ribrianne had her moment. She was really good in the moment. She wasn't mid. She wasn't really awful. And for that, she gets 3 out of 3. We'll move on from there. And I believe, let's see. Oh, this one right here. Okay, so I'm not going to say too much about it, but I do remember one thing from her. It's a blue card. Paralysis. 40% chance for paralysis. Yeah, this character, her the blue 18, though only supporting blue for some weird reason. Probably because she was there to buddy up with the Krillin, that Cell Saga version of Krillin. She was, and I remember trying to force her on the team. This is before I think the leader slot was introduced in the game. So because of that, during the time that she came out, I really only experimented one time using this unit, and she was fine. The blue card with paralysis could definitely give Ribrianne a run for her money, but again, she wasn't supporting the team Z ability wise back then, and her damage was kind of mid. So she didn't really have much of a presence on the female warriors tag girls team back then. So she kind of showed up and became one of those Spartans that you just said, I got that unit. Not like I'm going to use it though. So with that being said, I'm gonna have to make a really big call here and say give her a 1 out of 3, because she had absolutely no teams to really run on. And if you do say that she ran on a team that you ran mono blue, sure, but I'm used to the character name tag, you know, the character theme tags, not monocolors. So that's pretty much where I stand on the matter. She really got very low playtime for me, and I rarely saw her on release. So there's that. So 1 out of 3 for that version of 18. Oh boy, Bunny Bulma. What can I say? She has the green card mechanic that can essentially boost your allies' ki and your enemy's ki charge up speed, which really funny touch there, Toshi. And then she also had the ult, which again, really premium thing to have back in the day. It did some decent damage. I think when anybody looks back at this character, it wasn't because she was a really solid supporter, on the battlefield. It's because of her Z ability, which reduces the amount of super attack cost by 10 permanently throughout the battle. And I've used her a couple of times on the bench when Kale and Caulifla were getting their showcase video. I was doing what I could to see if I could cheese with as cheap of a super attacks as possible. And yeah, you can get that off, but you're trading up a lot of serious damage, because I think she's doing what was it? Yeah, 28% to only blast attack, which is virtually nothing in today's meta. But when she did come out, having cheap blue cards was the thing to have, and I think only her and Hercule to this day are the only units that have reduced card cost permanently on a team tied to their Z ability. I don't know if they're afraid to do more with future units, because it kind of stopped there. And she was decent for that. I would say she wasn't really super spectacular on the battlefield. Like I said, she had some decent stuff in her kit that were premium, but it's just her Z ability, and for that I would say she's a 2 out of 3. Probably on the lower end of 2 out of 3, but she was enough to say, okay, she would be good as a bench this early in on the game. So that was pretty much my personal opinion on that one. This one I really wanted to like, this Dragon Ball Buu Saga 18. She was infamous for having the girls tag. I think it was either girls or android that was only going to apply when she hit 14 stars. And I was like, wait a minute, why are you barely adding that to like a maxed out unit? And I never understood that. And looking at it here, when you got inflicts 30% damage received, steals one enemy card randomly, cannot be used for 5 seconds. When this character is on battlefield, reduces enemies Dragon Ball by 1 when they switch characters 3 times. And then she has the situational depending on your character's playstyle. She was kind of a whatever unit. I'm not gonna lie. I think she, as a red unit, this early in the game, she just kind of was whatever. And she didn't really add much. I mean, I guess you could say the card ceiling was super duper great, but looking back at the time when I was using this unit, she didn't really do much. She was just another character to fill in that schedule, and felt very very mid. And I don't want to say 1 out of 3. But I'm going to put this like at the lowest possible 2 out of 3, because she was there. She did the damage for the moment in time. She is a defense unit, right? And I guess she did her defense well. I don't remember too much about that. But she was just there to fill in the team, and I managed to get her to 14 stars eventually. But it was just, she did not seem like a character that was like, oh my goodness, she's making waves. She was just decent, I guess, for what she was doing. And of course, she got completely forgotten once the game moved forward. So, there's that. All right, now let's go ahead and move on over here. We got, let's see. Oh, everybody's favorite unit. I remember when I debuted this unit on her release. She was a monster when it came to strike attacks. Remember, this is during the same era when Android 18, the yellow one pre-Zenkai was, striking up a storm. You pretty much had this 21 that could just have almost infinite strike card combo, like 0 to death situation. And then plus she had a really amazing healing tool, which penalized your opponent by getting hit by losing ki when she attacked you, and then she also healed up. That was super duper good. She was very, very relevant. I'd say for a unit that is not supporting girls tag, you running female androids with this character, you knew you were going to have more wins than losses. She was going to outlive you. She had the transformation mechanic, which I mean, once you transformed, it gave you the option to have the main ability pop off again, which just gave you green. Which, if you popped it off at long range and you saw your person dancing in the middle of that, you got a free heal, and you also could punish them, so they couldn't really attack you back. Obviously, the biggest weakness for this unit going forward was that she had no cover null on anything that she had, but it was during the time where she could get away with that because there was very few cover null characters in the game at that time. And then looking at her Zenkai, because she did get a Zenkai here, 10% health. That's still nothing to really like flinch at. And look at that, 10% of damage inflicted cannot be canceled. That is infinite. That is infinite. So you, and theoretically, you can make her hit as hard as possible if you just keep spamming the screen, and of course reducing the key by 30. This one, oh yeah, that was even pre Zenkai, where depending on how many cards you had, her blue card could hit like a truck, which was super duper good. Oh, I didn't even give her the rank of the original. Here's one, 3 out of 3. She was extremely good. She was extremely viable and survivable. That was her thing here. For Zenkai, let's see, of course, purple androids. Restores key by 40. Draw. Okay. She was able to generate a card. That was another thing that she could do, was she hopped in and she just grabbed a strike card in hand, and you pretty much always had enough key in order to use it. So she always was there to continue a combo, or at least start one, with at least something that she was good with, which was a strike card in hand all the time. Looking at the Zenkai stuff here, restoration, upon landing a strike, reduce damage received. Yeah, her Zenkai probably was like probably gave her enough oomph. But again, she kind of suffers from, I'm going to look at one more time. She does not have cover null. Yeah, I don't see a cover null here whatsoever. Yeah, no cover null whatsoever. Health restoration. Upon landing a strike card sits. Yeah, there is absolutely no cover null here. So again, she's a strike monster, but if she can't touch you, it doesn't matter. So I'm going to kind of remember a little bit if I used her a lot when she's in Kind. I think I did, because that was one of my most highest rated videos, which was the Zenkai with 21. I think during that time it was still somewhat possible to run her competently, but there was enough pushback that just kept her in check. So I'm going to give her like a 2 out of 3. She wasn't like worthless, but she was doing what she was supposed to do when she was in Kind at the time. Alright, so moving on, I think I know what's next. It's probably another 21, right? Yeah, it's this one. I'm going to be really quick on this one. I'm going to speed through these ones instead of giving too much of backstory. 21, she was great. The blue card was awesome at the time, though hard to really land properly due to the timing of those AoE blues. Her green was probably like the best one because it was a combo chainer, and she was just able to get another card from that and it just keep the combo going. Hers, I would say, compared to the purple 21, she was a good viable option for female androids, and I would give her like a 2 out of 3. She was actually really she was a really good part of the core. It was her, purple one, and then I believe the red one that were all running at the same time. At one point or another, like the Horny Trinity, they were calling it. Still can't believe that was like the big name at the time. But yeah, so pre Zenkai, she pretty much had everything she needed to be viable, but she wasn't like the end all be all unit. So I would definitely just give that like a 2 out of 3 for that. When she got her Zenkai, it almost felt like it was a whatever Zenkai. She was just sort of they gave her a Zenkai to shut people up, but she didn't necessarily feel like a new unit that was viable. She just kind of came and went. And when you had a unit, well, of course, a free-to-play unit, they tend to get super duper power crept faster than any other paid unit. And she was there for like maybe a good week, maybe 2 weeks, and she just got forgotten. So I would say probably her Zenkai after that point was just like a quick 1, because she was there, then just gone, and nobody really cared about using her ever again. Plus, again, I think she had a problem. I'm not going to look into it, but I think she had a problem of just having no cover null on any of her stuff, which, again, that was becoming more and more relevant as the game got older. So that's pretty much my rating on that one. All right, moving on. I got George's favorite character over here. It's Kefla. This character was a nuisance, and I loved it. It was female Vegito Blue. She had the one of the premium mechanics at the time, like the super duper one, which was blast. Was a blast? What are they? Not blast cover. Why am I spacing out on it? When you're able just to go right through the blast attack. Why am I thinking that? Blast armor. There we go. I don't know why I forgot about the name of it. Blast armor. She had blast armor. Vegeta Blue had blast armor. This was during the era. You had very few options to defend against an enemy combo. She could do exactly what Vegeta Blue did, which was 0 to death you. It really was a very big thing where she was just an oppressive force on the battlefield. And if you had Kefla, you were essentially free to defend yourself against any Vegeta Blue counter. She could eat his ult. She was doing oppressive damage to him, and she also had her ult card that allowed her to feint you. Now, if you had the feint in there, that was more than enough for you to get your Vanish back, and also be able to just land the finishing blow with a different character. Anything like that. That feint mechanic as very unreliable as it could be. If it did land, that was going to change the game, and Kefla was no different on that one. She was very, very good. I gave her a 3 out of 3. Unfortunately, her Zenkai was there, but did not address a lot of the problems that you've been hearing me from the other ones. No cover null on very important things that would keep her viable. Majority of the time, people knew that she had strike cards in her hand. She was mainly there to Zenkai buff a green. I think, what was her Zenkai ability? Yeah, Universe Rep. So green Universe Rep. She was just mainly there to act as a buffer at that point. And she just did not feel the same. She did not have the same impact as that. And the sad thing is, every single time she comes into the battlefield, she turns all blast cards into strikes. So guess what? You come in with Kefla in a modern setting. Person's gonna know you're gonna have strikes, unless you're gonna try to be sneaky and do a drop combo, which is not very wise. In higher play, you are not going to get anywhere with this one. And even though she got Zenkai'd, it felt like her presence was just there to be a supporter and nothing else. So that one I would probably say would be like a 1 out of 3. I wish they would do better with these Zenkais instead of just making them primarily bench. But hey, that's just me. All right, moving on. Let's see. We got Great Saiyaman 1 and 2. I'm going to just tell you right off the gate. 1 out of 3 for both of these. These guys had absolutely nothing going on for them. They were essentially worthless units on release. They looked cool. They had some really nice animations, but they were just not at all impactful on the movies team, or not even on the girls team as a whole. It was just a worthless unit. When they got themselves a Zenkai Awakening, I thought maybe they might give them something good. There's absolutely nothing that sets them apart from any other Zenkai unit there. And I argue they're probably one of the worst ones, probably worse than Kale, in terms of you just gave us an opportunity to awaken this unit, and they are just worthless out of the gate. They had no impact. They had absolutely nothing worthy of, like, I should put them on my team as a, I guess if you wanted an extra Zenkai bench, but like, really, why even Zenkai this character if you weren't going to do anything substantial with their kits? If you play as them, they feel like a brand new character. And they're one of the biggest disappointments I've ever had with a Zenkai unit in general. And even when I tried summoning them for the sake of having another Videl unit that was tied to it. So that gets a really low 1 out of 3 for my rating there. All right, moving on. Technically, Vados. Now, this one was another character that kind of felt like Videl. She was just there to like heal once, and her entire gimmick was over and done with. And with that being said, nothing else beyond that. Unlike the purple one, which we're not going to talk about because it's an EX one, but this one didn't really have many, I think, defense options. She was decent at the time, kind of like a. She was a support unit, right? So she's just kind of there to make your other units be a little bit stronger. But supports and defenses, again, mostly defenses are the ones that end up getting hit worse. Kind of wither away a lot faster, at least during this era of the meta. And she was decent. I wouldn't say she was really garbage, but she was decent at what she was doing. But nothing super duper impactful. And for that, I give her a 2 out of 3. Nothing much I really could say about it. Let me see. What was her blue? Oh, she could seal you. Yeah, we got characters that could just seal by just looking at you the wrong way. so you got that. All right, moving on. Technically, because you got the Broly and Sheila here, they were fine. I had very few play time with this character because of obvious reasons, but they were fine as a support unit. They were decent as a Zenkai. Nothing too spectacular, but to keep them away from 1 out of 3, it was pretty much 2 out of 3, just to be at a safe one. So I'm going to move on from that. Oh, wrong one. That's an EX right here. Quick aside, this was probably one of the easiest units. Obviously, Blue Videl takes the cake in terms of how many times I've pulled. But this Green 21, solid, amazing. And now that I'm remembering it retroactively, the red one, I was forgetting it wasn't the red one. It was this one, the Blue 21, and the Purple 21, which you essentially had a stranglehold of the game for quite a bit of time. She pretty much had complete control over the game when it came to her solar flare, because she was able to stop people in their tracks, and you could swap out to anybody else that had some type of really broken blue card, and she also had cover rescue. You gotta also remember, this was during in the infancy of having cover change. I always look back to the red Super Saiyan Blue Goku, the red one that had his cover change. It was like the first, I think one of the very first characters to introduce that mechanic, and he was very good at doing what he did. When you got a character that had universal cover change, it was like, oh man, you got to drop combo or you got to stop hitting because you don't want to waste your opportunity. 21 was no different. She had cover rescue, which essentially says no to any damage, at least twice. The second one you kind of had to earn because that one was tied to her main ability, and that was sometimes the only time you really got that second one. Even if you couldn't use the ult, you just use the main ability anyway, just to have that privilege to use the second cover rescue, which looking back now is like, why would you do that? Should have just had 2 out of the gate. But hey, it's whatever. They really didn't want people to be abusing that cover rescue. But anyway, this 21, very, very good. She had solar flare, she had really good strong blue card from long distance, and she had cover rescue. Very, very, very solid character. Unfortunately, as a range unit, gotta remember who was around during that time. You had blast characters. Blast armor characters. And so the inverse of Kefla, she was essentially, anytime she hopped into the battlefield, she had blast cards in her hand. She turned all strikes and blasts. And what that mean? You were kind of defenseless if you plopped in neutral, and your opponent's like, all right, throw a card. I know what you have in your hand. I'm going to power right through it. So if you had somebody like Kefla or Vegeta Blue, you were going to get yourself pummeled to death. Not to death, but you were going to get pummeled a good probably half of your health bar, and that was not very good. So I will say, notwithstanding that has an asterisk, on release, she was very darn good. It was a very high 2 out of 3 for my ranking on that one. All right, moving on. Moving on over here. Rosie. I'm going to probably say the same for Kakunsa, the Sparking ones. These were kind of mid. Probably kind of like super duper unvaluable too. They were kind of mid. And I think only Rosie gets probably a little bit over Kakunsa because hers had the chance to faint, whereas the other one was just relying on bleed damage, which bleed was kind of negligible. It wasn't going to kill you. It was not going to result in more damage being thrown at you. And they were just kind of there to add to the Ribrian squad, and I don't think much thought was put on besides that. Rosie was kind of whatever. There was better yellow representation via the 18. I would argue Videl was better because she could at least heal. And this one's only defining mechanic was the stun and nothing really else. He was just there to make Ribrian look good, and you were, as a consolation if you didn't pull Ribrian on the banner. And I will say, other than that, she just kind of like a whatever. So it was like a 1 out of 3 for me. I rarely spent much time trying to get this character leveled up because it didn't seem like it was worth it. And the same can kind of go for wrong one. Look at the EX. This EX is way better, honestly. We'll just skip over that real fast. Kakunsa, same issue. Was kind of a whatever unit. Bleed damage was not necessarily a thing that was like, oh my goodness, this will help me win the game. She was just doing average mid damage, and that was it. I don't remember her blue card being very, very strong, but it was just whatever. And I give her like a 1 out of 3 as well. Lower than Rosie though, because at least Rosie had the paralysis that could come off. Or was it paralysis? Man, I'm spazzing out here. Oh, what it was paralysis or stun? Faint. My bad. Faint. Faint is for faint and paralysis interchangeably, at least for me. But I know one's worse is paralysis because Majinku. So you got that going for them. 1000-day Bulma. Man, I was so excited to get this character to run. She has a really awesome Z ability. Look at this Z ability right here. 30% to girls or hero. Like, did they really equivalent here girls to hero units? Okay. Strike and blast. He has no defense whatsoever. This is just pure power. This is like the unit I use when I'm like, screw heavy defense. I want to see how these characters are going to play with just full-on power for both sides. And sometimes I'll bring this unit, sometimes I won't. You do definitely feel when you don't have a unit that has some form of health or defense tools in there. But you have that going for you. Bulma, this one, as much I poured out into getting this unit maxed out as soon as I could. I was one of the very first people that actually got this unit to 14 stars, and it was such a long, convoluted way of doing it. First, you had to beat it for 1,000 days, right? And then you have to do all these missions in order to do it. And there's a lot of different things you have to do. You have to do adventures, you have to do PvP, and eventually I ran out of all the PvP missions, so I had to do all the meticulous, defeat all these characters, play as these characters. It was a lot of stuff to get it done quickly as soon as possible. But the thing is, she is a character you do not want to put out there, because why? Look at this right here. Applies following effects to allies other than this character when battle starts. Plus 40% to damage inflicted for 1,000 timer counts. So essentially the entire match. And plus 20% health restore for 1,000 timer counts. The effect is cancelled when this character is switched to standby. So the problem is, if you start a match with Bulma and you swap out, all this goes away. They did that intentionally to kind of be like, lol, don't have her come out. So the trick is, you're having two characters you're going to want to rely on, and then there's Bulma that's going to be in the background just chilling. The moment you pull out Bulma, you're going to have to say goodbye to all those buffs. That is just how it is. And yeah, reduce for damage received. She acts as a tank, and you got plus 100% to next special move damage inflicted when activated, which, happens every time you get your restore 30% damage when changing cover, and you got that happening when you change the cover. Yeah, it was decent, but in terms of free-to-play character, she just was not viable as an actual character. I tried my best to make her look really good. She had some really strong blast attack. Of course, all the characters with Uzis, they do that really strong blast damage, but the problem with her is that she just did not have any other value. You're literally told, do not play as this character. Try to be super good with the game pretend you're only playing with two characters. And his Bulma will be extremely amazing as a support unit. And unfortunately with that, if younger me saw me say this, 1 out of 3, because it was just not practical. It wasn't practical. The journey getting here was frustrating. The short bit of neurons activated when you actually did get her to 14 stars was great, but in practical use, as an actual character to use in Battlefield, she was not really valuable, unfortunately. So 1 out of 3 for her. Okay, moving on to the next one. Why did I skip over her here? Launch was okay when she first came out. She was fine. Again, she was only supporting Dragon Ball, green and red. She had a really high stat, even for today's standard, 40% for like the strike and blast defense. I think it's strike and blast. I have them right here. No, blast attack and blast. Yeah, blast defense, blast attack. She one note for the blasties. Very good. She was not like super duper great, but she was very good what she was doing. She was a good option. Unfortunately, she wasn't specifically helping girls, but that didn't really matter that much. I think they realized how limited the Dragon Ball team was, which is why they gave her such a high stat buff for her Z ability. Launch was okay. I I played as her with her a little bit. Her ability to ignore cover change with the green was good, but I was kind of losing its zeal back then because there was nothing else onto it that she was gaining. And all I remember was just like, okay, once I get a better red option, I'll probably be out of here. But she wasn't awful, and for that I'll give her like a 2 out of 3. However, my opinion has drastically changed over the course of time when I've been recently using her as our red option in the girls team. At the time of this recording, Launch is amazing at keeping the combo going. And then what is it when it comes to Zenkais that I was harping on? It's having cover null. This character, when she released, I believe had no cover null whatsoever. Zenkai comes in, she has cover null on Vanish. Now you're probably wondering, oh, it's situational, Mark. Why does it matter? Vanishing, if you get a PV, you go straight for a card, you are starting a combo with her uninterrupted. That is what's great. And on top of that, she vanishes, she gives you a green card. She gives you that green card is going to be very, very valuable. Why? Because not only is she ignoring subcount, she's also giving your characters a buff, which is something that is extremely, extremely useful as opposed to just eating out and another character's kind of vulnerable coming in. She's doing that. So why is that very, very useful? She is pretty much adding more combo chain to your allies, and especially if you're in a situation where you're at 10 subcounts because of foolish play or you just got very unlucky, you're going to have a green into a character that has more cover null. And what does that mean? That's going to mean the combo is going to extend longer. And imagine now that we have the mechanic where you're essentially being punished for having super long combos. If she is the last character on your team, and the sub count stopped going down, and you have a green, you are essentially ignoring that clause and able to continue the combo just a little bit longer with a unit that is already going to extend the combo even further. So she is very, very valuable. I will say her Zenkai far and beyond exceeds what was ever given in her original kit, which is a very rare sight that you've been seeing with some of these earlier Zenkais where they just kind of, add into the bench. No, she's actually pretty darn viable on girls. So there's that. All right, next up, better than Great Saiyaman 1 and 2. They are not meant for a girls team. So I'm just going to give them a 2 out of 3 on that one. I'm just going to be real quick on that. TOP 18, on release, she was fine. Her blue card hit like a truck. She was decent to run on the Universe Survival girls team. I think she was buddy up with Base Kale at the time. And I think it was her and Base Kale at the time that I was using. They were fine. She at 18, her biggest claim to fame was how hard her blue card was. The fact that her green was able to stop time, and you kind of chained that. Her main ability that gave you more flexibility with ki and such. She was decent, but I wouldn't say she was overwhelmingly like a monster on the battlefield. It was just the blue card, and the blue card came in occasionally. It wasn't like, oh, she's hopping in with a blue card. Like when the blue boys, they would always show up. It always seemed like they had a blue card in their hand. Not with 18. She just kind of was a unit that filled in the modern era at the time of the team they were trying to set up. And when I was trying to fill out my team with that, she just seemed like, okay, she was decent. She just added to the team a little bit stronger, a little bit more defensive, just to be modern. But she wasn't doing anything super duper cracked. So for that, I'd say she is 2. Unfortunately, her Zenkai, I really can't say the same for Zenkai. I think her Zenkai, not intentionally, was fumbled. I just think her Zenkai was more geared towards the TOP stuff and not necessarily for the girls tag stuff. She is meant purely to be a complementary unit to 17. And when you're looking at it from my point of view, you're not really getting much value out of 18. And a lot of what she has, again, cover null needs to be more spread out with these Zenkais. Give them opportunities to make it easier for them to keep the combo going. Her blue card isn't doing like one shots, and she just kind of a below mid for at least the girls tag team. So for that, I give her a 1 out of 3. She kind of was that one character I played as for that video, and then I'm never using her again. All right, moving on. Man, this video is already over an hour long. Did not expect that to happen. This one. Red Kefla. 1 out of 3. She was a shell of her former green self. Not necessarily super good. Her Z ability is probably the only thing that's worth holding on to because it's strike related. And she was never hard hitting. Even her ult felt really undertuned. Kefla was just kind of a disappointment, honestly. Much of her kit being tied to forcing the person to vanish, so that way she'd get some buffs. At least during that era of the game, was not something you could consistently pull off and take advantage of. By that point, you were already swapping out yourself, and then you just did not have those buffs. Kefla was just overall, this one anyway, overall a very, very bad option for girls. Very, very sad. But in terms of like a Kefla in the game, I never thought there would be like a bad Kefla. So yeah, she just was not doing that much damage. Her ult was kind of pitiful, and her survivability was pretty bad. So there's that. But this one, however, the Kale and Caulifla duo, they're very good. They were able to keep a combo going for quite a while. The green, obviously, one of the things that made them extremely super duper good during that point in time was getting Vanish back via green card, though it wasn't the entire Vanish. It should have just been a full Vanish restore. But you were able to do that, I think, 2 or 3 times, which in the span of a game, you're probably eating through a lot of Vanishes. So having the ability to get your Vanish back close to, or all the way within one cycle before having to swap out is extremely super duper good. They have blast armor on their blue card, which is super duper valuable. They don't have it on standard strikes, which is really sad. Their blast damage was probably their biggest claim to fame. It was very, very strong blast damage. Unfortunately, after that, they just kind of fell off. It wasn't their own fault. It was just, again, the nature of the game. I would say probably like this is the lowest 3 out of 3 that they could have offered in the game. They have a good ult. The ult was very strong. They were very impressed with the blast, but other than that, nothing really special came from that. But they were just very, very strong and exceptional for what they were doing. And in a game where girls tag was getting slept on, this was the best they gave us, and funny enough, better than Kefla. Very, very funny enough, better than Kefla. And I would say they earned their spot at 3 out of 3 because of how long before they got aged out they were. So yeah, 3 out of 3, but on the low end of 3 out of 3 for that one. All right, let's see. What do we got next here? Okay, I'm going to go through this really good. 3 out of 3, mainly because that green allowing you to get blast in your hand. Oh, wait, hold up. I want to be very clear on this one. Changes blast card next. Change own strike card to blast. Yeah, restores own key by 40. Good. And deals massive impact damage. Creates own Dragon Ball hit by 1. Wasn't this a character that you were able to get a blue card in hand for no reason? Oh, special move. That's through the main ability. Okay. This unit, when she came out, extremely good for a free unit. She hit really hard. She got Dragon Ball manipulation, which is good. And she was able to easily snipe you from distances. And especially in a game where you got lots of people dancing from a distance, you get them with a stop time main ability or stop time green card, you are going to give them a really bad time. Her blast damage is really, really good. And I think I need to look at her card here, right? I thought she had paralysis near her somewhere. Does she have that? Ah, here it is. Yes, inflicts enemy with paralysis on hit. She's giving your team that when she was on the battlefield. Very, very good. Of course, anytime you can Majin Ku somebody, it is a really good feeling that it comes into your mind when they're struggling to figure out what to do next. This character, really, really solid. She was essentially a replacement for one of the 21s when you wanted to run all 3 of them at the same time. Blast cover null is not necessarily something that is very frequent or common. Of course, we have Universal, that's different. But she kind of was one of the outliers of the Universal, the strike cover change, because she was mostly blast base focused. And when you're blast base focused, you just say null, lol, nope to the strike, and just keep the combo going forever. Plus, her blue card was extremely powerful, and meaning that you didn't have to really rely on a long combo to make your presence known. You just one blue card, you are good to go. And without saying too much on that one, this 21 was really darn good. So 3 out of 3, very, very valuable free unit. All right, well that took a lot longer than I was expecting, but let's continue on. So our next Spark game that we're going to go take a look at is these two over here. So I don't think I'm in the minority here and just say that this unit was incredibly correct on release. These guys were such a menace when they came into the game, and because 18 was tied to that, she was also part on the girls team. So it was really, really funny seeing the characters I had buddied up with these guys at the time dominating PvP in such an unorthodox way. The 17 green card, and 18's ability to just remove your vanish twice in a match was such a screw you to your opponent, because it forced them to make a decision for you. And you could kind of more or less rely on that unless they were very ballsy. But a lot of times when people were not advantaged, you're like, I got to get this guy out of here. I'm vulnerable. So, you know, and plus they had anti-endurance. So they were able to also just ignore a lot of the people who were very prominent in surviving rushes. Now they were also vulnerable. So these guys, for like the longest time, I think it was until Trunks, like the green Trunks, they tried to use that to shut these guys down. It sort of kind of worked, and then I think eventually, it was Cooler, Red Cooler, the one tap Cooler. They ended up causing these guys to get shut off. I forgot what unit completely turned them off. Maybe it was Gohan. Either way, these guys were extremely aggressive, oppressive, and I would say broken for what they were doing for the rest of the game. And for that, I give them a 3 out of 3, just because these guys were such a great tool for me in PvP. That we're probably never going to get something as cracked as this ever again. Of course, it was an 18 unit as well. Alright, next up over here, we have Sparking Pan. If you remember that meta that we had for, was it Red Beast Gohan, Orange Piccolo, the green Orange Piccolo, and then we had this Pan here. This Pan was essentially the ultimate combo stopper. You were beating up the small child, and you got penalized with key reduction, and all your options were being taken away. Plus, you had special cover change, which, you know, also added way more value. And even if it didn't go off, you were still getting your combo stop. It was great. Pan. Oh, also her green, just zoinking all your ki away. That was such a mean tool to use, especially if you had just a handful of greens. Your opponent couldn't do anything. So this Pan, I would argue probably even today, has some merit of being used. Maybe she's not hitting very hard, but as a utility character, she does a lot of cool, interesting things still that could potentially keep her relevant just a little bit. Not necessarily as your first option, but as a good secondary option here. So this Pan on release was super duper good. Her super attack, actually, your blue card, actually was really, really good. It hit pretty hard considering it's coming from, what they designate, yeah, support character. So she was really darn good. If I were to say she was 2, no, I would argue that she was a solid 3 for the girls team for when she was around. Good combo stopper, and also a solid damage character when it came to supers. When it came to like key blasts and strikes, sometimes they did damage, sometimes they didn't. It just kind of depended on the build of your enemy. But majority of the time you were there to just stall out and cancel your enemy's actions on the spot. Yeah, so I would say she was probably like a good solid 3 out of 3 unit in terms of its viability for the team. Next up here, we have this Kefla. This Kefla, I'm going to tell you right now, 1 out of 3, because this Kefla was a complete nothing burger. She added nothing, really. I don't even need to look at the kit. If I'm feeling like the character is not doing much on release, I'm probably gonna just say like, okay, that was a waste of my time. They didn't need to grind out all these stars here, and you know, unfortunately, that was the case. This Kefla, all she's really doing is she's gonna serve one purpose and one purpose alone: 33% to girls' blast stacking defense. She is just a Zenkai. I'm sorry, she is just a Z ability bench character. That is it. A lot of her kit, which I'm not gonna go into, is just so boring and basic from when she released it. I never saw value in it, and you know, correct me if I'm wrong if she did some amazing plays, but when she came out, she had absolutely no impact on the meta. So, hey, that's how it goes sometimes. All right, next up we have. Okay, now we're getting to a little bit more of the modern units, and I don't really have to say too much because you guys have probably seen a lot of my videos showcasing said characters here. Kawaii, amazing unit. Even today, Kawaii can do some serious plays. Now, she may not be doing that much damage blast-wise, but she's going to be doing a lot of damage with her strike and her consistent bleed on strikes. Now, the cool thing about her is that she has that ability to cause, I think, bleed and great bleed. Let me see, I think it's on here, the strike. Yeah, heavy bleed. 100% chance to inflict heavy bleed on it. That thing stacks over a certain amount of time, and you're going to end up getting your opponent, who might be regenerating either down to normal damage, or you're just going to get them just one love tap away. And that stuff will actually be impactful as opposed to the earlier units that had some kind of bleed. I think Kakunsa, which you didn't really feel it. This one you do feel it because you're constantly getting that 100%, and you're constantly going to be wanting to attack with this character. Koei is also amazing because she has the green card, which removes your vanish twice per match. And plus, that's also healing your allies and yourself. And it's also a really good pressure tool for your enemy because if you remove their vanish, it forces them to either love tap you, which you can essentially strike card through, which gives you a free combo because even if you do it late, they can't sidestep it. Or if you're dealing with a non-blast blast armor character, you're going to just be able to throw a key card and get a combo for free. There'd be a scenario where if you're doing that to an enemy and you don't take initiative or like get a lay of the land first, they could essentially just stop your advantage with that by just zooming in and doing a love tap to you and just stalling out that way. That's the only way that you really can fumble that. I've done that many times. Sometimes you're just in the thick of it and you don't think straight about it. The best way for Koei... Oh, also, Koei has 2 Vanish Restores, or 1 Vanish Restore. When you're at the start of the match, one thing I love doing is starting with Koei, where I just vanish a very easy attack, and then instantly vanish again, because most players, when they make you vanish, they will follow up with a card, so they can attack you. If you vanish twice, you're essentially getting a second vanish in, which more than likely than that's going to be a PV. And then you could start your combo for free at the very beginning of the match, and then go to a character that has cover null. That has been the strat for it as well. Her blue card, also super amazing, also has bleed on there. Or is it? It's right here. Deals massive pierce damage, 30% to special move damage for 3 timer counts, and then 100% chance to inflict extreme bleed. And she has blast armor on that too, so that is also a super duper good thing to use when people are trying to get you during your stop time. Always a good option. But this super hits hard. Even today, it hits really hard. And so then of course you got your ult, which is extremely useful as well. Also has blast armor. Also has the endurance killer. You can kill somebody that has endurance, but that's not something you really want to rely on as like your finish. It's very situational. It's not like having endurance nullification all the time like Self. But she is definitely very, very good. The only problem that she has is that she cannot take as much hits anymore. But if you were to look at when she first came out, she definitely could. And she was a very good, viable unit, especially when she gets hit. She's also reducing sub count, which also can help you with survivability and getting somebody with some endurance. So in terms of like the girl's character unit, Koei is actually really, really solid. A really good secondary option if you plan to use it in today's meta, which is surprisingly still very viable. All right, moving on. We got ourselves this 18 right here. This is a free-to-play 18. I do not have much input on this one. I played with using this character. She did not feel very impactful on female droids. And for that, oh, by the way, Koei gets a 3 out of 3. I almost forgot about it. Koei gets a 3 out of 3. This 18, I don't really have a judgment score. I did try playing with this one when it was brand new. Did not exactly have the most glowing thing to say about her. I may be looking at it from a situation where I'm trying to play this on girls tag mostly, and most of her is tied to Android 17 or something, but she didn't really seem all that impressive to me. So I'm going to keep that like a question mark because I don't really know that much about this character because she didn't really wow me. All right, on the next one over here, Pan, Giru, and Trunks. Amazing units. They are possibly one of the best revitalizations of the girls tag when they came out. I understand they are there to support GT and I believe Sunfam. Is it GT and Sunfam? Yeah, GT hybrids and Sunfam. But on girls tag, they definitely need somebody that was able to nullify special cover change, and just because she's on the team with all remaining members, she's able to do that on entry. Super duper valuable. Plus she has that green, the annoying Giru Trunks all together now, giving you an extra card, extra key. She has death buffs, possibly one of the best strike attacker options at the time that she came out. The biggest flaw that she has though is that she loses that cover null on entry. She has one person that's dead on the team, so therefore she kind of loses her viability to be a very easy attacker on entry. And then despite having good offensive options, even like her blue card, which has blast armor, which is really good. I think going forward, every blue card should have blast armor, and I think that's probably where they're going to be headed towards anyway. But her problem for her is that she cannot take very much hits, which is probably why, even as a melee attacker, they gave her death buffs to add to the team, which is a pretty substantial amount of buffs. Unfortunately, I think those can be canceled. Where was it right here? Applies follow when this character is defeated. Yeah. Oh, wait. Damn, that isn't cancelable. Okay, good thing I double checked here. For 5 counts, every time the enemy uses a special move, ultimate or oh yeah, that's pretty darn good. Okay. So at least those are not cancelable. I thought they were cancelable. I know at one point somebody's death buffs were cancelable. But yeah, so she has some pretty decent death buffs as well. And I would say a very solid 3 out of 3 character. Especially when she came out, it was literally the only thing that you were able to use to defend yourself from purples. And she definitely earned her space on essentially on my team long term. Unfortunately, it was her ability or her inability to tank very much hits as we got further and further ahead, where I had to swap her out. But then again, that's for every unit in this game. Anyway, let's move on. Bra and Vegeta support or was it assist? Yeah, that's what they qualify it. Bra is a completely different good character, but has the major flaw that Pan has, but even worse. Bra cannot take a hit. She is so fragile even when she came out that it is, unless you're actively sealing somebody's cards off, you're probably not going to survive and you need to be bailed out. The beauty, let's first get with the pros here. The beauty of this character, she has card sealing. She has card sealing attached to her deck, her special cards, and she has the ability to hopefully feint with her ult. And she has a good ult with Vegeta coming in, and you get that one chance to enact feint. You get that feint, that's a game changer, especially when things are a little tight and a little worrisome. Her blue card hits fairly decent. It's not like the strongest blue card in the game. One of the things that some people fail to remember is that some characters, their key cards are rocks. I believe she was during the era when Super 17 was being very oppressive, and you had Super 17 who absorbs projectiles, but he can only absorb the energy projectiles. So when you get Bra over here chucking rocks, and here comes 17 to go ahead and absorb it, you're still going to keep the combo going. That was one of the very few funny things that you could have with this character, her advantage, when 17 was on the prowl. Other than that, majority of her damage can be coming from blast cards, and just a very little bit on the actual strikes. I think the funny thing with her is the majority of her strike animation, the damage comes from when Vegeta shows up, and not from her actual slapping the person. Her blue is also pretty darn good. That was one thing I tried doing for a video. Not only are you getting a brand new card, you're getting some health, key obviously to use for cards there, 30% for the special move, so if you get stop time, that's always really good to have there. Minus 15 to next special arts cost, and then you're sealing their enemy strikes for 5 seconds. That is super duper good, especially when you want to poke around or just throw a key card that they cannot necessarily use a strike to pile through it if they have the blast armor. Very, very good in combination with other seals here. And so, as you can see here, I'm fully maxed out this unit. But other than that, she is definitely really, really good for utility, but defense, she really does suck. And the problem is, when you lose her in battle early, you really feel it. Like, she is really useful as a support character. When she is dead, she is no longer... you're going to probably lose, and you're probably... You're probably just cursing yourself inside, because like, man, I shouldn't have thrown her out there to take it. She has a cover change ability, but the cover change is, if it fails, which most likely when you have nullifiers, you're gonna feel it, and she's probably gonna die within maybe 1 or 2, one blue card and maybe like 2 or 3 cards from a really strong unit. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I would say for her ranking, it would probably be 2 out of 3. She's just usable enough that I feel like she would be merited as like a secondary option, or if you just want to be funny, but she's not going to be holding you back if you are playing correctly. All right, next up we have... Ooh, this one. This is like the resurgence of the Red 18 from way back when. This character, I hear, gets a lot of love for her, I think her cover change ability. When this character starts, okay, according to the number of battle, okay, all right.
Shortens ally sub count by 1 when hit. Okay, activates switch. The following occurs when this character switches standby. Shortens ult sub count, restores all health. I might be thinking about another one. Inflicts enemy with attribute downgrades. When this character is defeated. Okay, so she has death buffs on here. You know, I find it very funny, just quick aside here, when you have death buffs that remove one Dragon Ball, but the majority of the time if you're losing, it's probably the reason why she died was because it was a Rising Rush. So that one Dragon Ball is meaningless. And also, if it wasn't from a Dragon Ball, the moment that person touches you with one card and starts a combo, they're most likely going to have a Dragon Ball queued up. So it's not like they're going to go right into a rush afterwards. Or, you know, if this would be like 5 Dragon Balls removed, then I would feel like, okay, that's actually gonna stall them from using a Dragon Ball, or a Rising Rush, rather. This 18 here, decent-ish. I think this is one of the free-to-play ones that came out. I guess was very nice during the time. I forget what my analysis was this one, but I don't use this unit anymore. And it's been such a while since I've seen the animations go through. I'm going to give her just another question mark because I don't have many memories of this one. Mainly because it wasn't very impactful. Alright, moving on. We got this Bulma over here. This is, what Bulma was this one? This is the video game original one? No, this is another free-to-play Bulma here from Dragon Ball, OG Dragon Ball here. Let's see, event exclusive Goku. Yeah, she was alright, I think, from when I test played this one for video. She was alright. She wasn't necessarily doing anything super spectacular, but again, that's what most free-to-play units are doing. They're just there to, like, fill in an option if you don't have a better option. And clearly she was not meant for the girls tag, even though other versions of this character were geared for the girls tag. So I'm going to give this one like a 1 out of 3. Correct me if I'm wrong if she does some serious work. I just don't have very many good memories of this unit pulling wins for me in PvP. Alright, moving on. Okay, time for me to go ahead and have a buffet over here. Amazing unit. Very great. Green card. The only weakness I would say with this unit is that her green card nullify, or being the only way that she can nullify special cover change is a kind of a big weakness, especially when you have units that just pop in and just get their cover null for no reason, just for existing essentially. Videl over here hits pretty hard. I wouldn't say she's an extremely damage dealing unit. She is a support type after all, and she has an ult, which is really funny looking. But she does a lot of cool things for the team. She's let's quickly go through here and just see what we got. You get the 110%. Oh wow, man, how much we've gone, right? Draws 1 new card, always good. Restores key, always good. Plus 50% damage. Well, that's a thing. Nullifies card destroy effects to self for 5 timer counts. Also very good. That's something I completely forgot about. Inflicts all enemy downgrade with plus 15 to all arts cost. 5 timer counts. Okay, following effects occur every time this character uses strike. Restores own key, ally health, activation resets and switch, shorten sub count, activation. Okay, alright. And then what is this one? That's the cover chains, following effects occur for remaining health is 50%. Yeah, so okay, so this right here, one of the things that also made her valuable was her comeback mechanic. I call it that. There might be a different word for it, but when she dips under 50%, she causes the enemy to have, what is it? While this character's on the battlefield, randomly destroys 1 of your own cards and draw a special arts card next. Restores own health by 30%, super good. Plus 40% to damage inflicted. Key recovery, card draw speed, minus 5 to own strike arts cost. Enhances own special move, so you got the enhancement thing, which I think is exclusive to this one. The blue one doesn't have it. Or, you know, I'll look into that a little later. Reduce all key, yeah, reduces enemy key by 100, and it seals all enemies' main abilities for 3 timer counts. This here is such a thing, it's such a sneaky thing that most players that play the game mainstream-wise never see coming. So when they hit the 100% key reduction down, or they lose all their key, they're like, wait a minute, I can't finish this combo, and I can't go into my main ability. A lot of times that leaves them open to get tap attacked, or tap tackled, and it forces them to move out, which you can take advantage of as well. And yeah, it's a very good comeback where you can start a combo anew if you play correctly. Now, again, like I said, one of the only biggest flaws with this character is one, she's a support type, so she is fairly vulnerable to getting womboed pretty hard. I know they have some disruption here, but she is offering to counterbalance that, a way to get out of that combo with the 50% health gimmick, and also having some sub-count options, also having cover null tied to the green, getting some cards, getting some key. She's an overall well-rounded unit, and I would say on release, especially when this Videl came out during the Broly, the Do Not Switch Broly banner, she was actually pretty darn viable and good. I have her on the bench still, though sometimes I will love to bring her out. Just the blue one is way better nowadays. When she came out, she was a very good option to have in addition to whatever team setup you had. And for that, I would say she's a good 2 out of 3. I wouldn't say she was cracked, but she was good for what she was doing. All right, next up, got to the most recent units at this time of the recording for the 7th anniversary. In short, the best thing about Mai here is that it seems like she has blast cards for all of the end of your life. she is shooting things forever. She's getting key cards. She gets green cards, so you can spam even more key cards. And she has cover null attached to the green. Now, the biggest difference between her and Videl is that Videl is very strike-based. This one is very blast-based. And majority of time, and I could be wrong later, but a majority of time, most people's cover changes are 2 strikes. So in a lot of instances, unless you're dealing with Majin Vegeta, you're going to be having a lot of situations where you could throw out a bunch of blast cards for free before you need to start using cover null via the green card. And the cool thing is, she's self-sufficient with getting a green card twice when she goes in. Now, sometimes you might squander that ability because you might have a handful of cards already, and then that gets destroyed because of other things going on. But she is very, very good at keeping those super duper long and oppressive combos. On top of that, they actually gave her endurance killing, endurance nullification on her on everything she does for the first 5 seconds of her entry. I think it's 5 seconds. Take a look there. Sometimes I forget about that detail. Let's see. Following. Stores on health, following occurs when the enemy. Okay. Let's see. Applies following when changing cover, yada yada. Can use blast. Number of times. I know it's on here. I'm reading way too fast on this one. Okay. Applies every time this character uses a blast. Oh, yeah, by the way, before we get to that, having a chance to Majin Buu somebody, I was going to say paralysis, but yeah, to Majin Buu somebody with paralysis. Super duper good. I have won a good chunk of battles because paralysis went off, and it's not something you could really rely on. It's just when you see it, you're like, okay, time to see if I get lucky and can restart my combo back to the way it was. Re-looping again. When you got paralysis, use it. The Majin Buu players do it, and there's a reason why Majin Buu is so hated because it's very, very effective. Let's see, 3 or fewer cards. Blast, okay. Pause following effects when changing cover. No. Okay, I think it's in here. Okay. Oh, there's a lot. There's like a novel in here. Reduce Pierce, Weapon Wielder. Following effects occur in the same battlefield. Restores on key. Tag feature, yada yada. Nullifies. Oh, here it is. Also, effects to self-attack future weapons or girls other than this character's battle member. Restores health by 50%, 30% of damage inflicted, and then nullifies enemy restore health when it reaches 0. Effects for this character for 10 timer counts. 10 timer counts. Okay, so that's even better than just 5 timer counts. This Mai can potentially destroy a lot of the newer units that just have come pre-built with endurance. Primarily because if you Rising Rush them just with her, even if it's type of disadvantage, I mean, there's always that chance you just break through the defense. You are just guaranteeing a dead unit before they get a chance to ramp up on their own. She is that good. You could essentially get rid of, UI Goku before he gets a chance to transform just by rushing with this option. And she's amazing for that. For that, I will say she is a 3 out of 3 option. The only problem, the only weakness of this character is that she holds a lot of blast cards, and it is hard to match up with characters that have blast armor. Even though she has extra damage on blast armor characters, majority of the time it is not going to save you. They could probably eat it and still come out on top and start their combo against you, and that is her biggest weakness. The other thing is that sometimes you just get unlucky, and then you pop in a green only to get another green, and stuff like that. So it's one of those things, those risks you take with the whole randomization bit. But yeah, she's a very solid unit. Oh, and by the way, her blue card hits pretty darn good too. So you gotta also consider that. All right, time for me to get on my system here. Amazing unit. I don't care what people say. This Videl is sneaky good. A very powerful strike unit. And her ability to get her Vanish back really sneaks up on people, especially when you're on a 1v1 scenario where you clearly have Vanish, took the priority, and then end with a jab from long distance. That jab will give you your Vanish back, and then that prompts your opponent to think, I got a super attack for free! And they go right away, and then Videl can go ahead and Vanish, start a brand new combo, and then you're good to go. I love the fact that her strike, or just the first strike card she makes when she enters, gives her cover null. Super duper amazing and helpful, because that once you do one, you can go to a key card, no problem, and essentially continue the combo unabated. She has death buffs that you have to work for. Kind of sucks considering that everybody else has death buffs that's already pre-baked in there, regardless of what you do, but I guess they really wanted you to work for it. And I mean, if you're good at the game and you're being consistent, you can definitely get those buffs in there. The other thing, she also has an ult, super duper great, that it is both her ult and her super attack also have blast armor, so that gives her an option to counteract and defend herself from people that are trying to snipe from a distance or mid range. And then you also got her green, which again gives her another strike card, which essentially gives her more cover null, which gives her another strike card after that. There's just a lot of good things that this Videl has, but it was completely overshadowed because of the moment in time that she came out with a Super Saiyan 3 Goku. She is super underrated, super duper good option on girls, and definitely needs more play. I don't think I've ever seen this character in PvP to fight against, ever, since the period that she was out in the banner. So maybe time will tell, but does she need a Zenkai at this moment? No, I think she's aged very, very well with meta. Unless we get an extremely overpowered green unit, I don't really see a time for this character to get aged out anytime soon. But 3 out of 3. If I'm going to be super biased on it, I'm going to say 5 out of 3 and say that this unit deserves more love. And unfortunately, me as a Videl main, probably going to have to wait another year before I see another Videl unit that's actually good. So let's move on from there. This one. I did a showcase on the future Android 18. Good animations. Doesn't really help the girls team a lot. She is made specifically for future, and it really shows when she's doing absolutely no damage and has absolutely no agency in her kit to help girls. It's mostly just for 17 and for the future saga. So I'm going to be fair to this one and say for the girls, most likely a 1. For everything else, it's probably going to be a 2 or 3. She did not have any solid space for here. And I summoned for this character. Look how many stars I got. I really wanted to see if this character could do some justice in PvP, but she just did not do it. She didn't add value to the girls tag. And then we have lastly, oh man, this was over an hour and a half video. Thank you guys for watching up to this point. I appreciate it. I like the feedback from you guys. If you want to see more of these videos with the girls tag, let me know. I would definitely be open to experiment with some ideas you guys have and make some videos and content for you guys. So thank you. I was gonna say Videl and Caulifla. Kale and Caulifla. Really solid unit. I'm gonna say it right now, 3 out of 3. Way better than any Kefla that's come out since the green one. This unit, you've probably seen a whole bunch of time already in PvP. These two just go to town. They are amazing. They are flat out, sometimes feel like you can't do anything except just watch them wail on you, because they can swap into each other, they get cover null, they swap in again, they have cover null, and then, oh look at it, they got a green. So I guess we're going to be sitting around waiting for quite a bit. They got a comeback mechanic, in which I failed to say for Videl, the blue one, but that blue one also had a comeback mechanic like the green one, which also stops combos in their tracks. You kind of penalize them for going there, so they don't have options unless they got characters that ignore key that gets reduced. They got a lot of tools to keep them alive and also to keep them offensive. And Kale, obviously I think Kale is just the stronger of the two, and she has way more oomph to her than Caulifla. But as a group, and what their mechanics bring, the swapping mechanic, the green stopping time, and then the blast armor on strikes, which again, I love it when they give me options like that. I finally feel like I'm one of the boys again with with all these other guys that are just blast armoring through everything. It feels super duper good, and you end up having that huge competitive edge. These are for sure 3 out of 3 when it comes to adding value to the girls tag. And the fact that they put that in the Z ability makes me feel for 100% certain that they are not done with the girls tag anytime soon. They want to support it, but it is not something that they are going to be like dropping units every banner with. Though it does kind of seem like they are like silently buffing it with how good Mai and Videl were. This unit being on here as well. Those 3, and I've been using Launch recently because she has a very good complementary swap out mechanic. One of those 4 in there, amazing cohesion with this team. And Kalen Khalifa, probably at this point in time, are probably the best girls option the game has given out, bar none. They have a lot of tools that a lot of modern units have. The only flaw that they have is they don't have endurance. I understand endurance nullifiers, etc. Yeah, but if they had endurance, that would be probably like the last defensive tool they could have, in addition to all of their healing, because man, they heal a lot. They essentially have Videl's comeback mechanic with the restoring health, but it's tied to green cards, so you know you got that going for you. Other than that, that's gonna do it, everybody. That's 3 out of 3 for these 2. They're probably the best ones, and thank you guys for going back down through memory lane. Sorry if I stuttered a bit here and there, and if you happen to watch all the way to the end, appreciate it. I do this for fun. I love Dragon Ball Legends since the day it came out. I really wanted to do content with it when I got free time, and here I'm able to do it. And I appreciate you guys for subscribing and seeing what stupid things I have to say, and all the gameplay footage and shorts. I've been seeing it. Appreciate your guys' feedback, and appreciate the love you guys have been giving me for it. And yeah, we'll be doing more videos of this in the future. Not necessarily ranking, but just more PvP. We'll probably experiment a little bit with more unique ways to do content with this one. But let me guys know what you suggest, and I'll see if I can do it. So until then, everybody, take care, have a good one, and we'll see you guys next time for more Dragon Ball Legends. Bye-bye.